having the good seats be in the thousands is ridiculous. And like I like a lot of pop music and stuff. So like sometimes I want to go see some huge, giant, massive show, and I'll look at prices and I'm like, God, the worst seat in this entire arena is $350. Yeah. That's insane.
It's insane.
That is not okay.
Welcome back to the Inner Sleeve Music Podcast, the podcast taking a behind-the-scenes look at all things music. I'm Cassius Morris. Joe Pacheco joining me on the line. What's happening, my man?
Spring is in the air. That's what's happening. Excitement is what's happening.
That's right. Excited to get this snow out of my driveway and the cold out of my bones. Definitely feeling good moving into this spring season, and we hope you guys are feeling good as well. And thank you for tuning back into SoundMojo for an exclusive episode of the podcast. We had a really fun show today. We were joined by Dave Rude of Tesla, talking with us about the Tesla Vegas residency, which has been a smash hit over in Vegas, Joe. They just added another round of dates due to overwhelming demand. So it sounds like things are going really good out in the desert for Tesla.
Yeah, man. Like, I mean, you picked Nashville, right? So it's like Vegas, sorry. It's like vacation city. So they're probably going to be there for a lot longer, I think. And I think they're going to, as you see in the interview, and it's comfortable, man. Like, you don't have to set up every night, you don't have to tear down. So it's like they're jamming more before the shows and stuff. So it's interesting.
A new appearance from Sebastian Bach as well during the residency. So if you guys have the chance and you like Tesla and classic rock in general, definitely get some tickets. We have the link down below in the description. Sad news out of the world of rock and roll. Saliva guitarist Wayne Swinny has unfortunately passed away due to a brain hemorrhage. Now, this happened at the age of 59 and definitely something unexpected, I would say, in general for the band and the family, Joe.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think a hemorrhage is just an unexpected thing. Like, no one sees that coming, and it's brutal, man. Like, it'll just obviously take your life, man. It's like, I don't know if there's anything you can do, really. This stuff just happens, right? Very sad. We just had Bobby on the show talking about, super excited about the tour, the summer and everything. And then boom, you get hit with this, and speaking of Bobby, he started a GoFundMe campaign for the daughter of Wayne. And man, it's just, I'm like, I was shocked when I saw the news hit. I'm like, wow, like imagine we just talked to him, and it's like, this guy just passed away, like out of nowhere. We just talked to him like a week ago,
Yeah, it was definitely sad and sort of, hitting closer to home than not for the SoundMojo family as well, but obviously nothing comparable to the Swinny family. We do have this comment and statement from Bobby, who was just on our show. So it says, quote, "The Saliva family is mourning the tragic loss of our brother Wayne Swinny. Wayne left us suddenly from a spontaneous brain hemorrhage on March 22nd, 2023. Wayne fought hard, but ultimately lost his battle. The one bright light is the fact that Wayne was an organ donor and was able to donate his liver and kidneys, which saved 2 lives." So, I mean, if there's even, again, the potential for a silver lining in a situation like this would be it.
No, that's how I look at it, as a silver lining, right? I mean, like, nothing can be done to save him, but he was able to still, in this situation, save 2 other people.
He does leave behind his 11-year-old daughter, Nikki. So for anybody who wants to support the Swinny family, we will include a link to the GoFundMe campaign down below in the description. And definitely sending our heartfelt condolences to the entire family, the Saliva family, and of course the Swinny family. And rest in peace to Wayne. Definitely a very sad situation. He was going to hide the evidence, but then he got high. Afroman has been confronted by Ohio police for the second time in months. And although we're making light of this situation, this is definitely not a funny situation for the rap star. Now, a couple of months back, Ohio police raided Afroman's home due to suspicions of drugs, paraphernalia, and potential trafficking in Ohio. Now, this resulted in a raid of his home, which Afroman had heavily secured with security cameras. And later that month, Afroman ended up releasing a music video featuring the raid with the police officers in question. And now, Joe, it looks like the officers have something to say about this video being released.
Yeah, well, apparently it's a bunch of stuff on all the socials and like pictures and video, and even in the music videos. It's weird because, like, I understand his position. You come, you knock, you break down my door, terrify my kids. No charges were there. Nothing was found. And and now he's being sued for using the footage, which, I'm not a legal expert by any means. So like, I understand that the police officers themselves, right? They're just doing their job. They were told to do this or whatever, trained to do this, whatever you want to throw in there. So I can understand their point of view of like not being wanted to be ridiculed and all that stuff. But I don't know. How do you feel about this?
I feel like it's a double-edged sword, because we always hear, and again, I'm no legal expert either, but we always hear, if you're in public, you can film what you want. I would be very curious to know about the laws on private property, because this is Afroman's private property. He installed the cameras. I mean, again, from the naked eye, Joe, I would have thought he could film whatever he pleased on his property and ultimately have the rights to that footage. That being said, I know there are different laws in terms of signing releases and things along those lines. But again, I wasn't sure that applied to, public officers in the line of duty. I do think that it's definitely a sad situation overall, especially due to the fact that he wasn't caught with anything. And I think we've seen this happen with many celebrities. I think, especially in smaller cities or smaller states, when you have someone who's notorious, especially for counterculture. We've seen it happen with Tommy Chong getting raided and arrested just for having his face on a bong. So, I think this is something that can definitely make you a target in some of these smaller places. And, maybe it's time for Afroman to potentially relocate, because it doesn't sound like he's having too much fun over in Ohio.
Yeah, I know, but it sucks because it's like you have a right to live where you want to live, right? And if the people around you have an issue or suspect, like it's one thing to get a warrant and break into somebody's house and cause all that havoc. And, we've seen it in the past. I forgot the name of the person where the cops raided their house in the middle of the night, woke them up, and then shot their dog. Or their
happens
dog
a lot. I don't remember the exact one, but yeah.
Yeah, or like anything can happen, right? Because you don't know, like you just woke up and there's all this noise and commotion. So like if you happen to have a gun, you want to defend yourself, your family. So it's like it's just a bad situation overall. So it's like I don't understand why they don't just knock on the door, like, look, we have this warrant, we need to come in your house, and whatever, like instead of just breaking in, smashing the doors. Apparently it tore up all the camera setup and everything. So I don't know. It's definitely like you said, a double-edged sword, and I definitely don't wish that upon anybody or myself, to have to go through this kind of stuff. It's just really stupid.
It would definitely be very scary as well. Now, it says that the plaintiff, whose real name is Joseph Foreman, of course, Afroman, took footage of their faces obtained during the August 2022 raid and posted it everywhere, saying that it caused the police emotional distress, embarrassment, ridicule, loss of reputation, and humiliation. The plaintiffs are seeking all of Foreman's profits from his use of their personas. That includes proceeds from the songs, music videos, and live events, as well as the promotion of Foreman's Afroman brand, under which he sells beer, cannabis, t-shirts, and other merchandise. So they want a piece of everything that Afroman has going on, which I think may be a little bit over the line. I mean, it's not like they're a record label with a 360 deal. I don't see why the police would need a percentage of this, but this is obviously what they're looking for.
That's so weird. I've never seen this before. It's like, is this even legal?
It almost sounds like he's being targeted in a strange way. So again, you have some celebrity, especially from the counterculture and sort of glorifying something that maybe gives police a headache. I'm not saying it's right, but I can see how some police may have a problem with that. So I'm not sure if it's going to get any easier for Afroman.
I don't know. I don't think it's going to get any easier for anybody.
Let us know in the comments what you think. Hopping over to the SoundMojo community tab on YouTube, of course, the spot where we post different questions and polls to see what you guys are listening to and what you guys want to see coming up on the channel. And here we asked a question about different genres of rock. So here we asked, pick your favorite subgenre: classic rock, alt rock, heavy metal, or indie rock.
Our audience voted 59% for classic rock, 16% for alt rock, 21% for heavy metal, and a measly little 4% for indie rock.
Okay, so definitely a bit more niche for the indie rock. You know, I can't say I'm completely thrown off with this though, Joe. I mean, when you think about the biggest bands in rock still to this day, it seems to still be the bands from that classic era, even though, you know, groups like the Foo Fighters and such have carried the torch.
Yeah, it's to me, when I look at this result, it's pretty much on what I'm expecting, on like in terms of like classic rock taking the lead. They've been there longer, much more time and much more audience built up. Heavy metal been there a good like 40, 50 years. So second place. Alt rock, well, that could be anything, right? So many different, you know, types of rock. So that's cool. And it's funny that you said that Foo Fighters is, because I use Foo Fighters as the picture for the alt rock, where they're now technically considered almost classic rock, which, you know, I grew up in, you know, Guns N' Roses, the Def Leppards, and all that stuff. And those guys are now considered classic rock. So it's a bit of a shock for myself, but it makes perfect sense, right? With like, it's been 40 years.
It's hard to fathom though. And I mean, also picturing, you know, like groups like Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd, where that leaves them. Do you think, Joe, that in 20, 25, 30 years, we're still going to be seeing people with Dark Side of the Moon t-shirts, Led Zeppelin t-shirts, and that will still be regarded in the same way? Or do you feel like the Foo Fighters and groups like this will sort of replace that as time goes on?
That's a good question. I don't think Foo Fighters will replace Zeppelin and stuff. I think those guys have, you know, all the t-shirts and all that legendary. It's like their logos, their, you know, album covers like Dark Side of the Moon and all that stuff has become sort of meme in a sense, like it's just part of culture, not in a negative sense, but just like that Che Guevara, you know, like we all just know that that's the rebel, you know, that's this, that. So no, I think in 40, 50 years, we'll still see we'll still see Led Zeppelin shirts. We'll still see, you know, it's just that like at that point, you know, like maybe it'll all be considered classic rock / metal.
Yeah. Now, what would you say for your personal taste for this poll?
Like I said, you know, I think it's pretty much what I would have picked. I probably picked heavy metal because that was really like my first love, you know, in music. So I'm pretty sure I voted heavy metal, but I mean, like, yeah, I love Zeppelin. I love all that stuff too. So it's like, it makes perfect sense to me. You? What would you have picked?
I'd have to go with my classic rock. You know, I think I'm biased. That was what got me into it. You know, the Zeppelins, the Kiss, and you know, still the stuff that really takes me back to those great days of rock and metal.
Yeah, well, anyways, all these genres would not be there without that one, right? So everything's just built up on top of them all, you know? But it's just like I said, I was taken aback when I saw like an article that said Ozzy Osbourne's No More Tears was a classic rock song. And I was like, wow, okay.
Oh my gosh, where's the time going? Here we ask Eminem versus Lil Wayne.
Our audience picked 83% for Eminem and 17% for Lil Wayne.
Eminem tipping the scale in a major way. I kind of thought this would be more even, Joe.
Eminem is just like the rap god.
I feel like Eminem definitely has more commercial appeal that has lasted longer. You know, Lil Wayne in 2008 with Lollipop and you know, hits like that really had a career-defining moment and really a defining moment in hip-hop. But I feel like after that, you know, 5-10 years down the line, we were hearing more about Eminem than we were about Lil Wayne.
It makes sense to me, to be honest. It makes sense that like Eminem would take it. Maybe not by such a huge margin.
The only edge I would give Lil Wayne over Eminem would be that he freestyles all of his songs. So, I mean, definitely, you know, a world-class talent. But you guys will have to let us know what you think down below in the comments. Eminem versus Wayne. Now it's time to hop into our interview portion of today's show with Dave Rude of Tesla. This was an awesome conversation for any rock or metal fan to delve into, and definitely cool hearing about the Las Vegas residency, the ins and outs of making a show like this come together, and of course, the trials and tribulations of being a professional touring artist. Dave left it all on the table during this interview, Joe, and I feel like he was very candid, and it was a pleasure to speak with him.
Yeah, no, I totally enjoyed it. And like, the fact that we had prepared so many questions and like as we just hit the ground running and all those questions went by the wayside, which is what I love. And that's what we want, right? We want the artist to talk and express. And he did, like you said, he left nothing on the table. And like, yeah, the whole residency, it's even funny to see how surprised and how excited he and the band are about it. Like it's their first experience kind of doing this thing, you know?
It sounds like it's been a long time in the making for Tesla, and you know, definitely a great band with great personnel, and one of the last groups sort of their era, really genuinely carrying the torch for their sound. So a pleasure to have Dave on the show, and let's hop into our conversation with the man himself. Awesome, dude. So let's jump into it. Dave Rude from Tesla. We really appreciate you hopping on the show today. Joining us from Las Vegas, Nevada for, of course, the Tesla residency that's been going down at the House of Blues. Maybe talk to us about that, man. How's it been so far?
Oh, man, it's been great. And thanks for having me on the show, man. Super glad to be here with you guys. Dude, it's awesome. We've done 2 gigs so far here on the residency, and we're in this sort of stretch of a bunch of days off, which is weird because we never have this many days off in the same place or anywhere, really. But the shows were fantastic. Every show's been sold out, so it's really good energy in the room. Everyone's super excited to be here, and we're excited to play. I had always really wanted to do a residency, and I didn't think that bands at our level really could, because before it was only really huge arena stadium bands that would pull the residencies. Oh, well, that'd be cool one day, but not gonna work for us. But then, man, it all of a sudden did, and it's like, fuck, it's great. They're sold out. It's great. We just announced another one today where we're coming back in the fall for a second residency here at House of Blues. So in September, which is super cool. So already looking forward to come back, and we're not done with this one. And then the other good thing is that we've learned a bunch of old, like, sort of classic album tracks that we haven't done in a long time, or like ever, to sprinkle them in the set, so every night's a little bit different.
That's awesome.
Okay, so it's a different list every night. It's not going to be the same show let's say somebody comes to 2 shows, they're going to see a different set list each time.
Yeah, definitely. We rehearsed for full week, getting these sort of new songs for us nice and tight, and made new intro tape, played around with the segues between songs, all of that stuff. Just because we have a lot of diehard fans that will like follow the band for like a week at a time and come to a bunch of shows. And that's when we're like on a regular tour and they're like going to different states, So we try and keep the set list a little bit spruced up anyways, but especially here because, there are definitely, there was people in the front row in the same spot, the first 2 nights. I was like, hey, you guys were here yesterday. Crazy. Like
season tickets.
General admission, you got to come early for that.
That's the best.
But important to point out though that we definitely, we've got a bunch of songs that we have to play every night. Like there's, all the classic Tesla hits. We're going to do those every show, no matter what. Because those are the ones that people are coming to hear. If you don't play Signs and Love Song, they're going to be some angry comments on Facebook.
Yeah, pitchforks in the crowd.
I caught you guys here in 2017 with Poison and Def Leppard, and parking, traffic, leaving work. I got there late, but I was like, as long as I hear Modern Day Cowboy, I will be happy. And I heard Modern Day Cowboy, so I was super happy.
Oh, dude, that's awesome.
What would be? Could you let us know like what new or like old new songs you guys are?
I could the ones we already did so far. We did "Changing the Weather" from Static, that's always been one of my favorite ones. We've never done that.
Such a cool one.
Yeah, oh, super cool. I've always loved that song. "Lady Luck," which is another really really cool song to play.
That's the Great Radio controversy. That one, right?
Yeah, Great Radio. Yeah. And that was a really fun and super heavy. So those are both really fun to play. We pulled out "Love Me," "We're No Good Together," and then what we have been doing also. We did both shows. We did a new song that we just recorded. It's a cover, but it's going to be the bonus track on our upcoming live album that's coming out Memorial Day.
Nice.
And it's a live record. Full Throttle Live from Sturgis last summer, and so it's got the live show, but then we wanted to throw in a studio bonus track at the end. So we recorded it when we were rehearsing last week. We recorded basically live in the studio, kind of like live in the garage, and it sounds killer. It's an old Aerosmith song from the second Aerosmith record called "SOS Too Bad." Okay,
nice.
So we've been throwing that in too. It's fun, man. It's really, really cool. Oh, and also we did "Song in Motion" last night.
Oh man, nice. I love that song. Wow.
Me too. That's always been one of my favorite.
So powerful. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm assuming you must be like, this must like kill having to tour from city to city. You're just one nice place. You're settled down. Like you could probably get used to it, right?
I mean, yeah, dude, like it's crazy. I mean, so so far it's kind of normal because we've only had one day off. This is the start of our second day off here. It'll be weird on like the third and fourth, and but like, we've done a couple times, through the years, we'll do 2 nights in one place, like, some full venues, sometimes smaller casinos and in like more out of the way places where there's nothing to do. They just leave you, they take you there for the whole weekend. And then, we've done House of Blues sort of double up nights on stuff, and couple venues around the country, but it's rare. And so it's, to see, like, leave the gear up and like the crew doesn't have to do anything after the show. It's really weird. Like you go back, come out of the dressing room and all the amps are still there. Like, this is crazy, man. Like, cause it's always just such commotion for like 2 hours after the gig, and you gotta like dodge cases and like, oh, excuse me, man, I gotta get to the bus. So, kind of neat, but again, really, really fun. I'm still soaking it in.
Yeah, man.
Would you say that's the main difference between the touring show and the residency show, the not having to move things or tear down, or are there other big differences that you feel while on stage? I know you also mentioned the audience. I'd be curious if there are other elements that really felt different for you so far.
I mean, I think, yeah, definitely the staying in the same place. We've been doing really long, like 2-hour sound checks, like brushing up over stuff and learning songs for the next night. And, I mean, sometimes we always do sound checks and sometimes they get long, but I mean, these are more like rehearsals, which is rare that we would do that much playing before the show. But it's good because then it's getting us, really brushed up on those new songs. It's because we've got a bunch. We've got some that, that we haven't pulled out yet. So those, that's kind of keeping us on our toes, and it's just sort of, for me, and I imagine the other guys, it's just sort of changes the flow of the day, because all of a sudden we're jamming for a bunch of hours in the middle of the day, which is cool because there's usually a lot more time to kill, which can be boring. So it's kind of nice to have something to do. And then, yeah, the audience, I mean, they're really excited, and like I said, we have a lot of diehards, so they're really excited about the album tracks too, right? The new stuff in the set. But then, I think everyone and the majority of the people that come are they're fans and they want to hear the hits, right? So when they get to hear those, they're excited, and the fact that it's Las Vegas, and I don't have statistics on it, but I would imagine a good percentage of the audience at any show, any rock show here, any kind of show in Vegas, is going to be a lot of people who are out of town that are here on vacation. And so when people come, it's they come here to party, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey guys, fucking go to Vegas. Like, okay, like they are Tesla. Ready to rock to, yeah. It's like, we're going to go to Vegas and we're going to see our favorite band and we're going to fucking stay up all night. It's going to be so cool. And like, yeah, so this is their big weekend out kind of thing. So when you got a bunch of people in the same room that are all like ready to go, it gives it even a little bit more energy. I mean, again, it's kind of always like that at our shows. There's always a lot of excitement, but I feel like there's maybe a little added because people have been looking forward to this for months, and saved up and got a room and probably wearing a cool jacket and stuff. And so it's like they're like ready to have the time of their lives, which is great. And then it adds to us, like it adds to the energy.
You feed off that.
Really. Yeah. Oh yeah, big time. So, both nights, it was like Friday was great. And then Saturday was like, Saturday might have even been better. Like they were both really, really cool. And, again, with these new songs in the set, it keeps us on our toes. But it's also a little bit, we rehearse the fuck out of them. So like, I'm not worried we're going to mess up, but you don't know. These other ones we've been doing for decades. So, you don't have to think about them. And so it's kind of like, there's always a little bit of shaking. It's like, okay, when does the bridge come in? Oh yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. And so it keeps us a little bit, at least for me, it keeps me even more like on my toes during the set, which is good.
No doubt, man. It's so cool to be able to delve back into the catalog and break out those deep cuts, break out those hits. Speaking of the fans, I've noticed you're very interactive with, your fans on social media. You make a big effort to be consistently posting and updating them. Are you very interactive, like in person as well? Do you guys do meet and greets after shows, or is that something that's more so exclusively on socials? Because you do a great job.
Oh, well, thanks. We used to do a ton of that. I mean, we're all hell of like approachable and stuff, like we're not like rolling around with security. Every time I'm going down in the lobby here, someone's, hey man, and talk and hang out for a minute and take a picture, and like it's all good, and everybody's like that. We're really excited. We're always excited to meet the fans because it's that's why we're here. But we haven't done meet and greets much this past sort of year and a half. Before COVID, we did every day. Like that was our thing, like the VIP experience thing where people come early. And ours was a really good one, man. We'd let you come to sound check and play a song. You get, then we'd move over to this like area with a Tesla backdrop and you get a photo with the whole band and you get special fucking merch and all this cool shit. Like, it was a pretty good package compared to a lot of bands. We would do that every day, and we would do a lot of them. We had a cap, I think, at 50, and there was a lot of times where we couldn't sell anymore. It's like, dude, there's 50, man, we can't do more, Right. And so we always loved that. And then when the shutdown happened, that kind of messed everything up. So when we came back out, after everything sort of opened up a little bit, we started to do that because a lot of the shows were rescheduled, right? And we already had VIPs. People had paid for VIPs 2 years ago, So we did it. But at that point, it was weird because we couldn't be near anyone. So we'd have to be on the stage, and then the photos, they'd be down on the crowd, in the audience, and we're like 6 feet above them, and like, and like, oh no, don't get near the guys. It was like, geez, it felt weird. And people were like, why, man? Let me just take a photo. It's like, I'm sorry, man, it's not us. What
like, if I could, right?
And right, exactly. And at that point, it was like, if one of us got sick, in 2021, we'd have to shut down the whole tour. Yeah, it was. It's weird to think about all this stuff now when stuff is a lot more normal. But back then, for our industry, it was really touch and go, and it was super serious because whatever your thoughts on it, it didn't matter. Like venues wouldn't let you fucking play, and then all of a sudden, no one gets to see a show. So we did have to be really careful for a while. I don't know. That kind of threw a wrench into the VIP. So we haven't gotten back to it yet. I would imagine we will eventually. I hope so. It's kind of fun, but we'll see. Either way, like I said, we're always talking to fans, and we're again very, very easy to get to if you're around the gig usually.
In terms of the resurgence of concerts, as a major touring artist, you mentioned you feel more normalcy. Was that something that you were optimistic about, in 2020? I mean, when everything was shut down, did you feel like we'd get back to this point? And, to add to that, like, I think it's a pretty obvious answer that it feels good, but like, talk to us about how it feels that, we're back, we're touring, and we don't really have the same level of mandates.
Yeah. Man, I definitely went up and down during the whole shutdown, especially in the earlier days in 2020. I was not sure that it would ever come back. I kind of went down a whole, like, fucking, I Am Legend, Book of Eli, goddamn post-apocalypse kind of road there. Like, whoa, I don't know what is going to happen. I don't have any other fucking skills. Like, what am I going to do after everything falls apart? I'm going to be the first to get murdered, man. I mean, the roaming marauders are going to come to slash my throat before anyone else is. Like, this guy can't do shit, right? Like, so like, I can play you a song. So,
plug in my amp.
What's that?
Plug in my amp.
Yeah, I mean, exactly, right. So I was definitely not sure about anything coming back, and because I could see, it was so unprecedented, everything, right? Like, it's all the stuff that was happening 2 months before or 6 months before would have been unfathomable. We're like, oh, that would never happen. And then all of a sudden, wait, it is. So when you go by that logic, where shit can just get completely flipped up very quickly, me thinking, well, in 6 months or a year or 2 years, everything will go back to normal, whatever it is, and I'll be back on there again. Well, why? Everything else just completely changed, and you never would have expected that could ever be possible. So how am I sure that everything else I think is going to happen isn't going to flip too? Luckily it didn't, right? But it was a little little freaky there, because this was one of the first like big, world or crises that really affected the entertainment business. You were usually kind of immune to it, like housing crisis, recession. It doesn't matter for the entertainment business because people still want to go have a good time. So they might not have enough money and stuff might be falling apart, but people will save up and they'll still go to a bar and they'll still go to see their favorite band. So, we've weathered all that stuff before. But this one was really different. So yeah, it was nuts and it was really intense. I could definitely see multiple realities of never having shows again. And so once things started to kind of go back in this direction, I was really relieved and excited. And then, it was funny. I remember during all that time, like everybody else is like watching a lot of videos on YouTube and stuff. And one of the things that I would miss most, like watching bands, when they have like those behind the scenes, like everyone does, like we do it even now. Those like sort of like 3-minute clips of like on the road with whoever.
Right.
And it's like them getting dressed up right before the show in the dressing room and then like walking to the stage and you see the lights go down and then they walk on stage and then the video's over. That's what I was like, fuck, I missed that. Like that was what got me more than anything. Just the actually walking there and seeing all the lights and you're already wearing cool stuff. And it's like, you got your guitar on. Like for some reason, that's what really hit hard for me. I was like, oh man, I want to do that again more than like watching live videos. It was that I was like, cause we do that every night and it's something you sort of just get used to. And there's so much excitement in it. And so, then when we did get to come back, it was really, really fun. And, it's like, I definitely feel more appreciative of everything. I was kind of like, when it was getting closer to being able to tour again, I was like, dude, I'm never going to complain about anything ever again. I'm never going to complain about a fucking long soundtrack or a meet and greet or an early flight. I'm just happy to be here,
Honestly. It's definitely a gratitude thing, right? Like I find everybody took stuff for granted. Like we just, like you said, we couldn't even fathom something like this being possible. And next thing you know, everybody in the world was literally affected, for the most part, right? Like everybody had meeting with people in Australia, can't work, can't do anything, can't do this, that, like it was crazy that everything was affected. So it's definitely I sort of kind of sort of like silver lining, take appreciation in that people got a bit of like, whoa, though, like maybe the first world problems kind of thing, we're taking a lot of stuff for granted,
Mm-hmm.
Big time, man. I mean, the biggest thing for me was I finally got to spend a lot of time at home with my family, right? Because I have a son who's almost 10 now. So he was in first grade. He was 6 when everything fell apart. And I had never been home more than 4 months in a row since he had been born.
Wow.
He'd never seen me in a room for less than half a year without having to leave for at least a week or two. And usually at that point, we were touring hard back then. And I was going for 4 or 5 weeks at a time and then home for 1 or 2 weeks and then gone for another month. And, like when he was real little, I'd come back and he's like noticeably bigger. It's like, wow, you've physically grown since the last time. It's like, and that's part of being a touring musician. So, you kind of deal with it, but it's always the hardest part. And then, so that was really, really great. And that was as hard as so much of it was for people in the touring business. That was a really, really big silver lining for me, and I'm sure a lot of other people, because we're all gone, right? So we all got to finally stay at home with our families for a while.
Yeah, and that's one thing. Since we're talking about this, I always wondered, because like I myself, being guitar player, I wanted to play a tour and all that stuff. It didn't work out for me in terms of, but like having 2 kids, I leave for like a day or 2 on a gig or something, and it's like, wow, I feel like I missed 6 months, right? So like, it's got to be. I'm just asking. It's kind of a weird question to ask, but it's like, how does it feel every time you have to say goodbye, and you have to go away and come back? Like, it's got to be tough, no? Like,
no, that's a great question, and it is tough. It's hard every time. Like my wife and I had kind of gotten into the rhythm, right? And it was hard for us, before we had our son, but we're adults, so we can kind of manage it a little better. And it's like, yeah, this sucks, but we'll be all right. And it's all right. But when you throw a little kid into the mix, like they don't get it.
They can't understand a lot of these things, right?
I mean, exactly. I mean, because I started leaving when he was a week old. I had to miss. That's one of the only times I've missed Tesla shows was I missed like 3 gigs. I had a guy come replaced me, a killer guitar player called Tommy Armstrong, filled in for me for a few shows because they were during like my wife's due date, like right around that week. And I was like, guys, I can't miss it. I can't miss this.
That's make an exception for sure.
Right. This is like one of the only special things, right? And then so luckily I was there and everything was cool, but still a week later I had to go for like 3 weeks. It was nuts. So and then when he's 2 and 3 and 4, like they don't really understand time yet. So in some ways it's easier. They'll freak out and cry, and you're like driving away in the Uber and they're at the window like cry. It's like really hard. And now he's getting older. He understands it a lot more, but it's still really hard. And now especially the downside of that silver lining from 2020 is that now I have been home for years solid. So now when I leave, it's harder, right? Because for all of us, but especially again for the kids, because it's like now I'm used to my dad being here all the time, and why are you leaving for 3 weeks? Fuck, man. That sucks. So there's definitely that sort of adjustment period. I always find the day before I'll usually kind of get a little down, like everything will be fine, nothing will be wrong. I'll just kind of not be in a good mood, and I'll just kind of be, and I'll be like, why am I not feeling good today? Like, oh yeah, because I gotta leave, and
then you get to the stage, and you get probably into the swing of things.
Totally, it's this weird sort of ping pong thing, so I call it re-entry. It's when I come home from a tour, I feel like I'm re-entering the atmosphere, and there's always a period of adjustment. Like if it's like after this Vegas show, it's like on Sunday, and then I leave again on Friday to go do something. It's just a quick weekend thing, but like I probably won't even unpack. It's like I'm home and never doing home stuff, but like part of me, I don't let myself fully settle in if I'm only home for 5 days. But then, after that, I'm home for like 2 weeks. So then it's like, okay, cool. I can put the suitcase away and, and all that. But yeah, you know how it is with kids, like, because like my friends at home, like, they're like, oh my God, I had to go to Ohio for a week from work. And I don't know how you do it, man. I'm dying of being away from my kids. I mean, it's so hard, right?
Yeah. 100%, man. It's like I'm assuming you check in every day. It's calls and stuff like that. We're lucky in the sense that with the tech that we have now, you can actually have some video conferences.
FaceTime really makes a huge difference. Like I'm so blown away by having that, just the video live back and forth. I mean, it's no substitute, but it really makes a difference. Because I don't know. I mean, I guess it wasn't quite as prevalent when he was really little, but as he's gotten older, it's on every phone and it's so easy, and you don't have to worry about Wi-Fi. You can just do it wherever now. That really helps. Unfortunately, because of the schedule, and I'm always in a different time zone or something, sometimes you don't get to talk every day, and that sucks. It's like, Jesus Christ, I talked to you for 2 days. It's like you try and you miss, and it's like when I'm free, they're busy, and vice versa. But anyways, again, first world problems. We're all
exactly.
Right. We're still really glad to be here.
Yeah, I've been in a hotel in London at 2 a.m, still talking to them over here. Because it's 7 o'clock for them here. And it's like,
totally right.
What you gotta do?
Exactly, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Dave, one thing I'm curious to get your take on, we've been seeing a lot in the news lately, recently with The Cure, talking about ticket prices and fees and things like that. Curious again, your perspective on the rising prices. We've seen some shows, with tickets in the thousands of dollars. What's your reaction to this?
I mean, I don't think it's cool. I mean, it's like, I know there's a lot going on that people don't understand about how that works, that if you're in the business, it makes a little more sense, but of why stuff is higher. I just personally, not being like a booking agent or a manager, I don't know the specifics of it. I don't believe tickets need to be as expensive as they often are. Like you can, what it feels like sometimes when economists will try and put something into layman's terms at some really sorry. I think there's like people running outside, so the phone's shaking. There's not an earthquake in Vegas. Don't worry, it's all good. We haven't got that far yet. I just feel like it's like when they're trying to explain something in simple terms, and it's like, oh well, you guys wouldn't understand, so just trust me.
Right?
No, I don't. I think there's some disconnect. Like I think again, there are expenses and fees, and people think you're on tour, you're making just millions of dollars, and oh man, everyone's on a private plane and staying in hell no. This is just a regular ass job, but it's a cool job. We're not making tons and tons of money, right? And I mean, some people are, but there's a lot of people where it's just a living, and you have to tour, and and we generally keep our ticket prices as low as we can, from whatever world we even can play in that, because it's usually only the bigger artists, like really big, that can control how much, their tickets cost, right? But I don't know, so the touring expenses for any band, especially those big arenas and stadiums, it's really high, right? So I totally get that, and there is going to be a certain you have to be at least this price, and then the ticket company's got to take a fee and a percentage, but I don't believe it needs to be quite where it is. Like I think like they say, well, you think we're getting all this money, but we're really not. Somewhere in there is something missing where it's like, well, if we didn't charge that, I wouldn't get quite as many extra millions. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's not like you actually need it. It's that you need it to keep where your comfortable thing is or whatever.
From before the shutdown, basically.
And I'm not talking specifically any company or, because I don't know. It's just as my perspective as a fan, and then the little bit of that side that I've heard being in the business. And it's like, again, like it's probably always going to be more expensive than people would like. But you remember when Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers were like in like the 90s and 2000s, they were one of the bands, like them and Pearl Jam were like famous for like, we are not going to do that crazy tiered ticket pricing and have everything be super expensive. And if people scout, but from our end, we're not gonna let anyone charge more than like $75 for the good seats or something, which is fucking reasonable. You know what I mean? Like it's a lot, but it's like having the good seats be in the thousands is ridiculous. And like I like a lot of pop music and stuff, so like sometimes I want to go see some huge giant massive show, and I'll look at prices and I'm like, God, the worst seat in this entire arena is $350. Yeah. That's insane.
It's insane.
That is not okay. And like, I don't even think at that point, the artist is even getting it. You know what I mean? It's just like, I don't know the ins and outs of it. And so it's, while knowing it's complicated, I think there's a disconnect in that equation where someone is getting more money than they need to be getting, and it could be, at least to a degree, probably passed on to the fans.
Yeah.
Man, I couldn't have put it better myself. Sorry, Joe, I'll let you jump in here.
No, I was just gonna add to that because, like, I want to go see Seal, and he's only coming to Toronto, and like by the time I would be able to go see him, get a place, the gas that it takes to travel there and back, you're looking at like $1,400 to go see. For 2 tickets, let's say, like the prices are reasonable if I live in the city, but like Toto and Journey were here just like a week ago, and I'm thinking, oh man, that must have been $500-600 a ticket. No, somebody told me it's 150. I'm like, okay, that's reasonable for 2 major bands.
Totally. Right. So like
it really does depend. It's hard to nail down because then you get Madonna. It's like what, $4,000 or something. It's like crazy.
Dude, I was looking at one. I won't name the artist, but one of these huge sort of international pop artists, like last year. I was looking at tickets, and there was a ticket for a stadium show that was for 1 seat. It was $11,000.
Oh, come on.
That hurts just to hear.
There's a joke, right? And I refreshed, like, you got to be kidding me, right? And because it's resale, right? Because now they just resell their own tickets and it's legal. And like, I guess it's good because if you got to do it, you at least know it's not going to be counterfeit or something. But that is pretty messed up, man. Like you're getting to be your own scalper. Like, geez,
you need a mortgage to be able to go to these shows. Like it's crazy.
$1,000, you could buy a car, like a good car, a car that'll last you for like 10 years. Like not a like a decent used car.
Yeah, it's great. The worst part is everybody's complaining, but they're sold out. All the shows are sold out.
Yeah. So that was the thing I was going to mention. is as messed up as it is, and as much as everyone will be bitching about it, people still pay it, right? And those shows sell out. So that's why I don't think it's ever going to change. You know, it's like if you complain but still go. Well, I mean, again, hey, I'm in the business. I'm glad people are still going to shows for everyone. But I mean, if no one bought tickets, they'd have to change stuff around. Like, you know what I mean? It's one of those things where it's like, sorry, there's nothing we can do. It's impossible. Really? Because I bet you if no one bought a ticket for fucking 1 week, you'd find a way to make them cheaper.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's some sort of fat you can trim there that's gonna make it work if you really wanted to, Yeah.
Man, I couldn't have said it better myself. Dave, this has been an awesome conversation, man. We really appreciate you taking the time to check in. And we definitely hope everybody is checking into the Tesla website for all the tour dates. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to drop for the listeners to look out for that you wanted to mention.
Just our new live record. Yeah, it's coming out in a few months here, and really excited about that. It sounds awesome. It's some of the kind of similar to this residency. It's like songs that we haven't put out on live records before, more like album tracks and fan favorites, and so it's an unexpected sort of live set list that you haven't heard before. So, and it sounds really, really good. It was a cool night. It was a good show, and the Brian, our bass player Brian, we mixed it. It sounds amazing. He's
nice.
Really, really good at that. So definitely be excited about that.
We love it. And of course, to wrap up all of our interviews, of course, since this is a Watch Mojo program, we're well known for our top 10 lists. So to end it off, we did pull one list, and we wanted to see if you could maybe guess what the top 3 entries on this list are. So here we pulled the top 10 guitar duos. So, you can shoot 3 guesses. This can either be your favorite guitar duos that you know of, or who you think may rank in the top 3.
And you can include, and you're going to include you and Frank as well.
That's right.
Well, wait. So is it just guitar duos? No caveats like rhythm, lead, just any 2 guitar bands. The duos in any band. Okay.
At any point in history, whatever you think, let's say
Okay. So who are the top voted, the top 3, you think?
Yeah, because this list dates a few years, so like these are the top 10 guitar duos. So we have a top 3 that was ranked, but we're just we always like to ask people what do they think the top 3 of whatever the list would be, or what your favorite 3 would be.
Let's see. I say James and Kirk are going to be on there.
And on the spot, it's tough, right?
Yeah,
it is, right? Because I'm all the huge ones, right? So James and Kirk gotta be, and then Angus and Malcolm, and I mean KK and Glenn.
Ooh,
Any of those in there?
That's a good one.
You're like really good, like. Yeah, because they were there, and I was surprised at the number 1s. But on the number 3 we have Keith Richards and Ronnie Wood, which makes sense.
Sure.
Right. Then number 2 we had James and Kirk.
All right.
That's right on. Glenn and KK were, I think, 5 or 6. But I was really surprised that Dave Murray and Adrian Smith from Iron Maiden. I was surprised at that.
But there's 3 fucking guitar players in that band.
That's true.
That's true.
They lose on a technicality. It doesn't count. That's a guitar trio, and they're always the only one. It's like them and Skinner are the only guitar trios.
True. Actually,
Watch Mojo, take notes.
We were talking about this before. We were talking about this, looking at a couple lists to ask you, and like Cassius had guessed the Eagles as well, but I think there's 3 as well, right?
Yep, that's true.
So
I mean, just the biggest ones. I mean, personally, I wanted to say Slash and Izzy. They must have been on there. Were they?
That's a good question. I'm gonna check.
If they're not, then the whole list needs to go.
I don't think it was.
I mean,
don't think it was. Yeah, but definitely Malcolm and Angus were definitely there in 4th place or something. I can't remember the rest now because I only took the last 3. But
I was thinking Thin Lizzy, but they had so many different combos. It would be hard to say. Right? I was like, Scott Gorham and somebody else. Scott Gorham and the other guy. I'm
not like I've always heard of the Thin Lizzy and stuff, and I love it. But I'm not like I didn't ever deep dive into them and listen to the entire catalog. But I've been really tripping on John Sykes lately, and he was in that band as well. So I was just curious to see like what do you think? What's your favorite Thin Lizzy kind of duo? Or
Man, it's hard to say, but like, I mean, I love all the classic stuff, right? Like the Psych shit was great. At the end, it was getting heavier, a little more 80s and all that. But I don't think the songs were as good. Their heyday was when Phil was really just when the drugs were working. And he was like he was in that halcyon day of just being a badass, and everything they were putting out was killer, which was a little more melodic and less heavy, but still great. And so that was again, I love Thin Lizzy, but I don't know all the the chronology either. But I think it was always Scott Gorham, and then like Brian Robertson was a big part of it. Gary Moore too, but I think was Eric Bell, or is that the drummer? I can't remember. Like I think Boys Are Back in Town was like Scott Gorham and Brian Downey. Is that his name? I can't remember.
Got a fact check. Pull that up, Jamie.
Totally. I mean, it's a fingertips away, right? But like Jailbreak, Dancing in the Moonlight, Boys Are Back in Town, all those big hits. Whoever was playing that, which I'm pretty sure was always at least one, was Scott Gorham again, because every year or two they'd have a new guy.
I'm looking at Jailbreak. Let's say Jailbreak, the album. Let's say the members were Phil, Scott Graham. Scott Gorham. Yeah, that's it. Right. Yeah, that's it. And lead rhythm guitar, Brian Robertson.
Robertson, right? Okay, yeah. Who was in Motorhead for a little while too later on. So as fun fact is like our second guitar player, but he was a badass dude. Like they always had a great combo, even in the later years when it was Sykes and Gary Moore. I did a cover gig with a friend of mine. I sat in for a couple songs last month, and I had to learn Cold Sweat from one of the Sykes record, one of the late, I think it was the last Lizzy record. And like, it sounded like Thin Lizzy, but it was like, this is heavier and straight. Like, oh my God, like I had to sit there and practice it because like, what the hell? This is not the Thin Lizzy I grew up with. Yeah. But it was awesome. I mean, that guy's he is a monster.
Oh yeah, I was into it when I was a kid back in the '87 when the Whitesnake album came out, and then I've just been deep diving back into all those old albums and like like the Great Radio Controversy as well and stuff, and it's just like, wow, man, I didn't pay attention to the guitar work per se because it was more about the songs, but then when you listen to him, you're like, wow, this guy was just a monster, John Sykes, But anyways, I'm just going down that rabbit hole of just like learning all this stuff,
We could go all day. I love it though, man.
I know.
We were speaking about it before you got on the call, but your custom, your guitar, your signature, how's that been working out? Like, you've been using it for what, 4 or 5 years now?
Yeah. I mean, it came out in NAMM 2019, so January 2019. So got a full year in before everything shut down, and it was great. I mean, it was a limited run, but it sold out, and then they had to reorder it a few more times, and increased it. Yeah, it's crazy, man. I mean, they're great guitars. I play them probably over half the set every night. They're killer, and they just come great out of the box. I was really, really super just honored and happy to get invited into that family and be able to do that and to have a really cool guitar. And like it's like, wow, this is really exciting and humbling. And now, they're gone. Like people ask me like, hey man, can I get one? Like, I don't know where they are. Like if you look online, they're there, but now that like tickets, they double the price. So it's like, whoa, now they're like $1,200. Like, geez, man.
Yeah, that was one of the questions we actually got was, will that ever be coming back? So, I mean, maybe some potential to fire up a reissue or something in the future.
I mean, I hope so. Like it's great. People really liked it. And, again, I get asked about it all the time. So, maybe if there's enough demand, they'll make a few more.
Yeah, I love V's. I just I never really got to play with one for any extended amount of time, but I just always loved them, right? Like when I first time I was young and I saw Jimi Hendrix with that brown one, I was just like, wow, what is that? Like it just looks so cool. Then
it's great. You can get all the way up high. Like that's it. Before I had the one that became, the prototype and everything, I never actually had a V. And so I was like, wow, this is awesome. Like I can just go wheedly deedly deedly all day long, man. Like nothing up there to get in the way of my hands, you know.
Is it a 24 or is it like 22 frets?
Just 22. It's pretty regular, but just, you know, that design of the V having nothing on either side to block you. Because I'm usually more of a Les Paul guy, which I mean I still love those, but like, you know, that's like the thing I always say, like to play up on those higher frets on Les Paul, you kind of have to do the Zach Wilde and like do that. Like you got to, or Slash, like put your leg up on the monitor and like it looks cool as hell, but like you kind of have to do it. If you're going to get up there and go fast, like you can't pull a Steve Clark and play all that, you know.
I love Steve. I miss that.
Me too.
Whole low hanging stuff, and then I mean, even John Petrucci, Dream Theater, he has his foot rest on purpose so he could be able to do all those parts at a comfortable position, you know.
Especially something like that when it's like hyper technical. I mean, you gotta have it where you can reach the fret. So yeah.
Well, awesome, man. Thanks again so much for your time, and we
really appreciate it, man. Keep on rocking, dude, and hopefully. You know, hopefully I can teleport to Vegas one day and see the Tesla residency. That'd be amazing,
dude. I hope you make it out here, man. It's a lot of fun, and yeah, like I said, we're back here again for a second residency at the House of Blues. Starts at the end of September into early October. So you know, maybe you can come out to one of those shows.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much, dude. Keep in touch. Take care.
Sounds great, man. Thanks so much for having me on, guys.
Rock on, dude.
Bye.
Huge shout out to Dave Rude for joining us on this brand new episode of the Inner Sleeve Music Podcast. Like we said, so much that we got to delve into in this conversation. You know, one of the main things that stuck out to me, Joe, was how candid he was about his family. You know, the fact that this is not all that it appears to be with the glitz and the glamour and the rock star life. A lot of your time is spent on FaceTime talking to your kids, and that's, you know, challenging for a rock star just like it is for anybody else.
I know, and it's interesting, like, because nobody talks about this, right? Everybody just said, and I understand, as a concert goer, what do you care? I have my family, my struggles, my job, my whatever, and I want to see my favorite band. I just always find it funny when an artist cancels a show because they're sick, you know, and people are like, oh, well, man, he's allowed to be sick, you know, and it sucks. It does suck. But like, I've been in that situation where I had to leave for a business trip, and it's like, I found it hard, man, to leave. And it's like, can you imagine doing it all the time? And you know, I left for like 5, 6, 7 days. You know, imagine leaving for 2, 3 weeks at a time or even longer. I remember a random story. I remember running into, and this is like a freaky story I won't get into, but like I ran into Joe Elliott, singer of Def Leppard, once at a bar here in Montreal, totally random. And one of the questions when we were talking, and I was like, well, how do you deal with leaving your kids? Because he had just had a kid or a youngish kid. And he's like, man, it's rough. And he goes, and it's not like I leave for like 2 days. I leave for like 2 months sometimes.
Yeah.
You know? So it's, you know, it's interesting, man. It's something that, you know, people don't really talk about, but we have to understand that they have a life and a family as well. You know, it's not like you said, it's not all glitz, glam, and, you know, but then again, as soon as you hit the stage, you feel the crowd, it's like, boom, you know, this is where I want to be, you know? So I always find it such a hard dichotomy of sacrifice, you know, like you have to sacrifice to make your career, but then you also have to leave your kids, your family, you miss birthdays, like, what if your kid's like, having a really bummer day, being bullied, but you can't do anything because you're halfway across the world touring.
Exactly.
Sure, FaceTime and the tech definitely helps, but I mean, you can't be there to hug the kid or help the kid or, you know, anyways, I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. Like, wow, what would I do as a parent, you know?
It's a lot of highs and lows, right? Like extreme highs and extreme lows, you know? So it's definitely cool to hear him talk about that and bring that human element to the podcast. Also incredible to see Tesla, you know, putting their money where their mouth is with ticket prices. You know, one of the actual honest groups who is out here talking about it and not just gouging us with the prices, you know, when they turn around. You know, for anybody who wants to see this Vegas residency, the prices are very fair. So I was very happy to see that too, Joe. I was like, you know, there's actually some good entertainment out here that people can actually afford to go see.
I know, man. I mean, like, yeah, you got to get to Vegas, which is one step, but still, yeah, I know. I mean, like, I get it, man. $60 or whatever it is, like, it's reasonable, man. You can enjoy yourself, have a good time. It's not like a mortgage payment or a car payment, you know, to go see this artist. And not only that, but they also like they'll play for 2-3 hours sometimes, you know. So it's like it's a full show, you know, and you're getting your bang for the buck. Like, I mean, I would not have any hesitation. I've seen them maybe already 3 times now. But like I would go again for that kind of money, and I know that the show is going to be good, especially since you mentioned some of the songs that they're doing that they haven't done in their catalog that are new live, for them.
Deep cuts, changing the set as well.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like, and they can stretch out, like I've always thought of that, like where it's like, it's all set up already. So it's like, there's like, you could just get to the show, do your thing, have a nice lunch. Anyways, it's enjoyable for all, I guess. Right.
It definitely sounds like a really good time. So if you guys are going to be going to the Tesla Vegas residency, make sure to let us know in the comments. And we'd definitely be curious to hear what you guys thought of the show. Also, make sure to let us know what you thought of this show, this brand new episode 112 of the Inner Sleeve Music Podcast. It's awesome to be able to entertain you guys right here on SoundMojo. We really hope you guys enjoyed it, and make sure to hit that subscribe button for brand new content almost every single day right here on SoundMojo. We're also available on our audio platforms, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Spotify. Wherever you can find our RSS feed is where you can listen to us on the go. So make sure to give us a 5-star review. We definitely hope you guys are enjoying the audio platforms as well. And we look forward to bringing you plenty more content here on SoundMojo. Also, make sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms at SoundMojo. That's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. We'll make sure to say hello in the comments, give you guys a tag, give you guys a like, and we're always looking forward to hearing from you guys on all of our various platforms. Thanks so much for tuning in to this brand new episode of the Inner Sleeve Music Podcast. We'll catch you guys next time.